Hi, I'm Brent Magid, the CEO of Magid, and I'm here today with our Chief Marketing Officer, Beth Miller. We're here to talk a little bit about the upcoming travel season and issues related to businesses that make their living in it.
Yeah, it's really interesting thinking about Memorial Weekend coming up. This is going to be the first test, if you will, of every experience in travel and hospitality out there. And I don't think brands are prepared for it. I don't think they're recognizing what an impact this can have.
Yeah, it's really amazing because when you think about it, a lot of the activities that people are going to be engaging in are things that they haven't done for 18 months.
Right, right.
And now all of a sudden they're re-engaging. And what we're seeing out there is, in many respects, the fact that old customers are new customers. They have to be treated as such. You can't just assume that people are going to come in and re-engage just like they flipped a switch from March 2020 and all of a sudden they're back and thinking the same way.
Right. We've spent 18 months in our own bubbles. We've had four walls separating us from everybody else. We've had everybody following the exact same rules of masking and social distancing. And we're starting to see the spikes as people are getting concerned. While a lot of the negative emotions associated with the pandemic are going down, we're seeing fear increasing as we're re-engaging with society. And a lot of that comes with those close proximities. I mean, sporting events, people are fearful of getting COVID at sporting events and using public transportation. All of this is huge impact on hospitality because we're cramming people in and they want to be engaging, but now we're living by different rules.
And what's interesting is those numbers that you're citing about fear of going back to crowded spaces has actually increased. Mm-hmm. Those numbers have increased from the studies that we were doing during the pandemic to now. So it's not like fears are abating, but now that people are considering jumping back in and doing these activities, levels of fear are increasing.
Mm-hmm. Think about the airline experience alone, that middle seat being filled. For a while, it was feeling comfortable because everyone's masked up and you've got space between you. And now they're filling the middle seat. People are not really enjoying that new experience. And our brand's really prepared to think about that across the whole spectrum, from shopping and retail to hotels. And we've listened to brands talk a lot through their marketing efforts about the safety protocols they've put in place. Well, that's table stakes. And we saw every brand get basically a brand bump recently and across the board. So none of these table stakes that people are implementing are pushing a brand in front of the pack, right? And it comes down to consumers not trusting other consumers.
Absolutely. And then the other factor is just the product and service itself. People have spent a lot of time during the pandemic really thinking introspectively about what they have done historically, what the new patterns during the pandemic, and what they like and don't like. So whole new sets of expectations have been established, but also eyes wide open on what are arguably new experiences. As I said before, it's people have done these things before, but it's been so long ago, so many months, that it's effectively a new experience. And so what you have happening is sort of the new restaurant syndrome, right? Where you're opening a new restaurant, and really that restaurant is made or broken at the open, because if you deliver a poor service at the open, those customers aren't coming back. Right. Whereas if it's tip top, people are going to come back and word of mouth will build and customers will start coming in droves. So if you apply that same way of thinking to all of these businesses in travel and hospitality today, that's really the imperative, which is meeting consumers where they are today and their mindsets and new expectations.
Exactly. And you're competing against things that they want to continue doing, that they've been doing for the past 18 months, that has been now ingrained, right? We saw that, 41% want to spend more time with friends at home. Spending time at home is something you're directly competing against for live sporting events, for restaurants, cooking at home. If the expectation, if that experience doesn't meet what the consumer wants, they're just going to revert back to what they've been doing for the last 18 months. It's familiar, it's easy, they know how to do all of that. So you really only get one chance to make a first impression. And what's so amazing about this is every travel and hospitality business gets that chance to make a new first impression right now. So the real question is, are they prepared to seize that opportunity?
Completely. I mean, consumers are going back with great trepidation. We're seeing that 20% of consumers dread the idea of going back to a physical grocery store. So if you're in the grocery business, what are you doing to make sure that that experience is above and beyond consumer belief about where they saw it 18 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
So Beth, we've talked a lot about sort of the customer trepidation and
Mm-hmm.
fears and things of that sort, but of course, the numbers show that consumers are coming back and engaging in droves, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's certainly the case. But what we're seeing in the data is that at the margin, there's a non-insignificant number of people who do not intend to re-engage in certain activities like business travel,
Right.
like they did pre-pandemic.
Right. They want more control over their time. They've gained more control during the pandemic. They want to retain that control over their time. But then there's still that healthy level of fear. And then there's the experience on top of it. So we have to make sure that businesses are thinking about all of those angles, hitting it out of the park on that first experience back, and then figure out how to draw those folks back in and set themselves apart. And it might be entirely new business models or offerings, ways in which of pricing. It can't just be the safety protocols. It has to be that holistic experience. And now this weekend, this start of travel is when they can start picking up on some of those cues and be ready to pivot and make adjustments to their business to really protect themselves going forward and to pull those other fringes back in to make or break, to move that business ahead.
Completely agree. I think that the whole customer motivation is a big piece of this in marketing activity, because there's another kind of sea anchor that's attached to activities like that, which is corporate business travel budgets, which have been at near zero for a year. And I'm sure there are a lot of CFOs out there who are reluctant to let that line item creep up significantly. They're trying to keep it tamped down. So there's that added pressure to certainly to the business travel category.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big weekend. There's going to be a lot of experiences that are going to be tested, a lot of expectations that have shifted. This is a chance to make a new first impression, but also be prepared to make the pivots necessary to draw people back into these experiences and get them to fully re-engage in business, or they'll easily fall back into the patterns that they've created during the pandemic.
And it's a great opportunity to
understand
where consumer mindsets are today, what the new expectations are, and meet them where they are so that you can excite and delight and motivate more people to return to your business and gain market share in the end.